This is TWiT.
Tech Break is brought to you by our friends at IT Pro TV, now called ACI Learning. ACI Learning's 80% completion rate is 50% higher than the training industry average. Invest in your team with the best training they're sure to love. TWiT listeners can receive up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution Plan. Based on your team's size, you'll receive a properly quoted discount tailored to your needs.
So you may have heard about a number of services out there that would let you, as a non-iPhone user, be able to join the, as I'm calling it, the Blue Bubble boats, the ability to send iMessages to your iMessage friends and receive iMessages in return. Yeah. But until very recently, I hadn't seen one that was doing things differently from the way that we've seen these services run in the past. Joining us today to talk about this new Beeper Mini service is Beeper co-founder Eric Migicovsky. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Hey, Mika.
Hi.
It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. So let's kind of kick things off by talking about Beeper Mini in general, because this was a recent announcement and it certainly has kind of kicked off. What is Beeper Mini? How is it different from Beeper? And then how is it different from some of the other services that claim to be able to let you send messages and receive messages from iMessage folks?
So I've been working on chat for just over 3 years now. We started 3 years ago because we wanted to solve the problem that a lot of people have. When they look down at their phone, there's a folder full of different chat apps that all kind of do the same thing, except a different subset of your contact list is on each app. That's what we set out to do. And our first product, Beeper Cloud, actually does that. It's an app that lets you chat with anyone on 15 different chat networks. We've got a desktop app, an iOS app, and an Android app. But through the course of building Beeper Cloud, we realized that there was this kind of very special problem to Android users. Basically, there's no iMessage app for Android. And here in the US, a lot of people use iMessage, especially iPhone users, as their primary means of communication. When iPhone users text Android users, they have to send green bubble SMS messages. These are generally just, they're worse in a lot of ways, that you can't send full resolution images, you can't send emoji tapbacks, and then, of course, they're not encrypted, so anyone can read those messages. We wanted to bring that to Android. Over the last couple of years, we've had a solution that kind of worked, but it wasn't perfect, kind of as you alluded to. Over the summer, though, that all changed. We met a 16-year-old security researcher who had reverse engineered iMessage, the entire protocol. We started working with him, and over the last 3 months, we built Beeper Mini, which is a dedicated iMessage app for Android. It is a native app, which means that there's no server or other system involved. The app connects directly to Apple servers, and you can send and receive Blue Bubble messages with all of your iPhone friends.
Wow. Okay, so there's a lot to break down in there. First and foremost, I have to tell you, I had read through the blog post and, gave it a quick cursory read first, and then went back and was, really going into it, looking at the links. And when I hopped over to the JJ Tech website, which JJ Tech is responsible for the reverse engineering, as you mentioned, the first thing I saw on the side of the page was high school student learning many different languages and technologies. And I thought, wait, what? So that first and foremost is pretty incredible. Now, so I think before we get into everything, I am kind of curious if you could sort of delineate for me what is involved that JJ Tech brought to the game, and then what is involved that Beeper brought to the game here.
So his major breakthrough was being able to send and receive iMessage protocol messages from any computer. Before that, you had to have an iPhone or a Mac or an iPad in order to send iMessage messages. His breakthrough allowed any device at all to do it. And his proof of concept that he published it's just a Python script. So you could run that Python script on pretty much any computer that supports Python. So we obviously had the same reaction to you, like we were just blown away. This because what he did had never been done before.
Right.
It was truly unique.
That was pretty incredible. Now, one of the things that you talk about in the system, or rather in the blog post that kind of gives the rundown of everything that's involved here, you go into, and I should say, everyone should go read the blog post because it goes into great detail, including in the appendix that kind of breaks things down and looks at how you're sending information, how you're not. One thing that I was interested to hear more about is the way that you have integrated the beeper push notification service, which of course is one unique aspect of this app that you've created, due to the way that Android devices versus iOS devices work in terms of being able to receive push notifications from Apple and its servers. So can you kind of break that down for us and explain where Beeper Mini comes into play in that aspect?
Sure. So many developers in the audience probably are very familiar with APNS, the Apple Push Notification Service. That's the service that sends push notifications to iPhones and iPads to wake their app up in the background and receive new incoming messages or updates or whatever. But obviously, Android phones don't support APNS. Google has a different service called Firebase Cloud Messaging. It's very similar to APNS, but it doesn't work. They don't work together. So we had to build a bridge that allows a new push notification from APNS to be kind of transferred over to Firebase, to FCM, and send through to Android. And we had to do that in a way where no confidential or private information was available to either Google or Apple. But we figured it out and created a bridge. So when you receive a new notification in Beeper Mini, we were able to send a push to your phone that wakes it up in the background without actually exposing any of your information to either Beeper or Firebase.
Right. Now, I want to go through some of the reactions that I have heard earlier in the week and some of the questions that folks have had. One thing that stood out, and I think this was just a matter of maybe folks not necessarily reading the blog post to understand, is the sign-in process that kicks off in Beeper Mini. So you're not required to sign in with your Apple ID. Signing in with your Apple ID gives you the ability to essentially receive these iMessages on other devices like your iPad and everything else, and then it all syncs. But when you first sign in to the Android app, you sign in with Google. Can you explain what is involved there? Because I, again, heard some early reactions where they were just kind of confused about what the Google sign-in has to do with the rest of the process.
Oh, yeah, it's extremely simple to use Beeper Mini. You just go on the Google Play Store and search for Beeper Mini. It takes about 15 to 20 seconds to actually set it up. It's incredible. Like you mentioned, you don't actually need an Apple ID to use Beeper Mini. You can set it up solely with your phone number, which means that your phone number becomes a blue bubble whenever an iPhone friend sends you a text. And you can also be added into group chats because most people text using their phone numbers. We use the Google account login just as a way of kind of authenticating who's using the app. And then after that step, the only other thing you need to do is grant Beeper Mini SMS permission. We do that because we need to be able to send a message to Apple's servers to confirm that you own that phone number. And we also use that to import your past SMS history. So when you start using Beeper Mini, you can see which of your friends that you previously had been texting are actually on iMessage.
And then the big thing that I have heard folks wondering about, and I'm curious where you stand currently when it comes to the fact that this is now an influx of Android users who are accessing in some way Apple's servers by way of APNS. What do you, I mean, A, do you know of any reaction yet from Apple itself? B, do you predict any reaction from Apple itself? And C, what is the stance of Beeper in terms of, the legality and the potential blowback and everything that's involved there? Like that's definitely the sort of elephant in the room. Even if it's a big soft blue elephant, it's still an elephant in the room.
I'm a bit shocked that everyone else is so shocked at this idea. At the end of the day, currently as iPhone users, when you text an Android person, you're getting a pretty crappy experience. And considering that 50% of the US uses Android, that's a lot of iPhone to Android conversations that have really small images, blurry videos, and most importantly, lack of end-to-end encryption. And so for a company like Apple that prides itself in having the utmost, security and privacy, it is a pretty glaring oversight to say that iPhone, you see the billboards on the 101. It says iPhone equals private or iPhone equals secure. And that, there's an asterisk after that says, well, except when you're texting someone on an Android phone. So with Beeper Mini, all of the conversations between iPhones and Androids are actually encrypted. They get full resolution images. And I would say that Beeper Mini actually makes the iPhone experience better. So if I were Apple, I would actually encourage this. Like this is an app that actually makes iPhone users' experiences better and more secure.
I would agree. And by the way, hi, it's good to see you again, Eric. Had you on a couple of years on All About Android a couple of years ago to talk about the kind of the original instance of Beeper, or at least back in 2021. I would agree that it's better for users. Apple apparently doesn't care at least enough to do it themselves because they haven't, right? I guess where my mind is at right now is you mentioned reverse engineering iMessage. And when it comes down to like a legality question, when it comes down to like, these other services have tried to do the iMessage on Android thing, Apple was not very happy about that, but it's different this time, or maybe it isn't different, or maybe it is. That's, I guess, my question. But is that because reverse engineering iMessage is different from creating something that like forces it to work? You know what I mean? Is there something about the process of reverse engineering that absolves you potentially from legal interference from Apple?
So just about 3 weeks ago, Apple actually announced that they're going to support the RCS open source chat protocol standard sometime by the end of 2024. That's great. It's going to be amazing to have Apple iPhones be able to send messages using a standardized protocol. So I think it's clear that Apple already recognizes that they have a pretty glaring deficiency here between iPhones and Androids, and they're working to solve that. Beeper already supports RCS, so as soon as iPhone or Apple publishes an iOS update that supports RCS messaging, I think the problem might already be solved right there and then. Yeah. And we're excited about that because our long-term ambitions for Beeper is not just to focus on iMessage. We're actually building a universal chat app, one app that lets you chat with anyone on any chat platform. We'll be supporting 15 different chat networks when we get it all set up.
Ultimately, it's feeling like this is a question that can't be answered in terms of what you think Apple's reaction to this in particular is going to be like.
But they already reacted. I mean, they said that they're going to be adopting an open source chat protocol standard. So it's clear that they're making moves in this direction, and I think that's great, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And your earlier point too about, as an iPhone user, I 100% agree that any means of making the communication between two devices easier and better is a win for everybody involved. And as you've said, this maintains that encryption. I think that's the interesting thing to watch, right? How does Apple potentially balance this, as the billboards on the 101, this push for more encryption, more privacy, and a better experience for its users with maybe some sort of reaction to this or maybe not. And that has been kind of what I've seen in terms of the reaction to this is going, this is super
optimistic
cool.
Here. I think like most companies want to make the experience better for their users, more secure, more features. There's not many companies that actually want to make things go backwards.
Well, that is definitely optimistic, and I am optimistic about it. I want this to continue on.
Yeah, I do too.
I would love to know that when I send Jason messages and he sends them to me, that we're getting them in full quality, and I'm not worried about the message not delivering or something.
Yeah,
that has been.
Or if we're in a group group message
actually works together. That is great. So
we want this. Yeah.
Congratulations to the young individual who reverse engineered this in the first place, and great work to you and the team who have implemented this in a way that, actually is working. I just earlier this week received several messages from Leo Laporte, the founder of the network, who was going, I'm sending these from my Google Pixel right now. How are they coming through? Does everything look right? And it was all just working. It was pretty cool. It's pretty awesome to see. And I love the open source nature of what you're doing as well, that you're saying, look, we've got it out there. Really respect too that in the post you talk about, hey, any security folks who want to look at the special version of the app that kind of reveals some of the way that messages are being sent and what's being sent and how, that's out there. So yeah, I think that's fantastic. So folks can head to the Google Play Store to find Beeper Mini. If they want to stay up to date with what the company is doing and what you're doing, is there a place online they should go?
Yeah, we're on Twitter at OnBeeper.
Wonderful. Well, Eric, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you taking some time out of your day to talk about Beeper Mini, and I'm sure we'll have you join us again in the future.
Thank you, Eric.
Great to chat with you guys. Thanks very much for having us on.